Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson. I've asked Michael Hudson, the Managing Director of Southern Cross Gold. ASX code is SXG. Now, Southern Cross Gold have had a stellar year since listing in May of 2022. So just past the anniversary, ladies and gentlemen. Lots of drill results coming out. They've got their Sunday Creek project down in Victoria. Who knew Victorian gold was going to be the gift that keeps on giving? Michael Hudson, thanks for joining me on Small Caps today.
Kerry, good morning and lovely to be back.
Michael, you've just recently put out some more announcements. Just give us a brief overview of where Southern Cross Gold is sitting at the moment, because as I said just then, you only listed in May last year, I think one of the most successful IPOs. And I want to talk about what the vision is and the strategy going forward is, but just paint the picture to date.
Well, we started just over a year ago, as you mentioned, in our IPO in May, and we've been drilling with ferocity. We went from 1 rig, 2 rigs, 3 rigs to 4 rigs now. We've drilled something like close to 20 kilometres on the project, and you know we're getting hit rates and that are pretty much unprecedented in the gold space, especially at the moment. They're genuinely, globally significant in terms of the amount of intersections that we've been able to provide. Now, intersections in isolation are only so good if the mineralization hangs together, and now we're really starting to see a very significant system that we understand now, and we're just really starting to articulate that better, I think, in terms of how it all hangs together. The grade, frequency, and scale of this thing is we're on a pathway to building a significant project here. All caveats and a lot more drilling, but technically very confident in what the thesis was at IPO, was to continue on some of the good work that actually we'd done in a previous company than we spun it out of, Morrison Gold out of Canada, which I co-founded, and then I came to join Southern Cross. So our thesis was to continue on the good work there, extend to depth, extend along strike, and actually our hit rate is in terms of 100-gram meter hits or 50-gram meter hits is basically tripled or quadrupled from the success we were having earlier. So it's getting better, the system, as we continue to discover it, going deeper, actually.
How deep have you gone, Mike?
Well, we've gone very deep. We've hit a kilometre down hole, so about 800 metres vertically. The thing's still open, hundreds of grams we're seeing at those sort of depths. So it's
Did you say hundreds of grams?
Well, yeah, we're hitting thin, 30, 40 centimetre zones at hundreds of grams down there. We just put out a result that was 10 metres at 22 grams equivalent in one part of the system yesterday in hole 66. But
I love that. Sorry, Mike, I've got to. It's not Route 66, ladies and gentlemen. It's hole 66. Hole 33 was great as well. I wonder if are we going to have to wait till 99 to get the next fabulous hole, or are they all the gift? Are they all pretty good?
Well, there's a lot of great stuff in between, but it's maybe it's an omen. Maybe there's some lucky numbers in there for many. But we've really had some great success, and I suppose too much, in a way. We started so well, and the market's become, I think, a little bit apathetic towards great results, and
why?
Well, it's just, I think it's the nature of discovery, right? I think we're a bit like Anthony Albanese, our Prime Minister, right? He's had a great honeymoon over the last year, and I think we had a great honeymoon where people said, this is fantastic, we're doing a great job, they're unprecedented discoveries, and then people go, oh well, it's just more of the same, and yep, steady hands, they're doing a good job, but let's go and find the next best thing, basically. So discoveries go through that process, and it's just the short-term nature of the market. But steady hand on the tiller. We've got 4 rigs. We know we're on a great system, and continuing to find gold like we are will will turn that sentiment at some point, and we don't know where, but we're fully funded. We've got 17 million bucks in the bank as of last quarter, and on a great system, and a great team. What else do you want in exploration?
Well, I need to go back to something you said a moment ago, and I want to understand the rationale, if you like, behind that, because you said that Southern Cross Gold was a spin out from Morrison Gold, which is a Canadian listed company. Now, Morrison have 51% of Southern Cross Gold. Now, that's escrowed till May next year. I just want to know why the spin out to Southern Cross Gold. What was the rationale behind that? And also how supportive Morrison is. 51%, it's quite a chunk.
Yeah, that's right. What the hell is going to happen there? Well, I wear two hats. So I am the chair of Morrison and the company I co-founded, and I'm the managing director, and of course sit on the board of Southern Cross. So I won't be in the room when any of those decisions are made, but I know and understand that both companies very well. And really what I can say is there's broad shareholder alignment, I believe, and a crossover of shareholders and that want to see the best for all shareholders.
Yep.
And what does that actually mean? Morrison will have to articulate that, but it certainly doesn't mean sitting there in a controlled position and leaving Southern Cross at 49%. So there's various options that can occur. One of the obvious ones is to distribute when that escrow is finished, and that was the intention, at least by Morrison, to distribute at the IPO. But then at the time, it just didn't make sense. And it was a good decision at the time, I think, by Morrison to hold that stock, because it kept us very tight. One of the key things in an exploration company, I said, what else do you want in an exploration company? Good results, good people, and access, and money in the bank. But one of the other key things is a capital structure that is tight and well supported, and that's given Southern Cross for its first 2 years of life, and collectively we will manage that with an alignment of boards and shareholders. So I'm fairly confident that will be sorted when the ASX escrow it comes to an end at the end of May next year.
So what you're saying to shareholders is it's nothing to worry about. All's okay in the camp at the moment.
Yeah, no, I'm relaxed, at least, Kerry, and it's.
And you're a shareholder, so that's.
I'm a big shareholder across both, and it's an alignment of people, the same people, and very similar shareholders. So it's going to be rational decisions to make sure that it's in the best interests of shareholders, as simply put, right? But I'm being a little coy because they're board decisions that I can't preempt.
Understood
with you.
But I do want to point out as well that I believe Pierre Lassand has come on board as a shareholder. How did that come about? Because the reason I'm bringing up Pierre Lassand is there's a lot of M&A activity going on at the moment. Is Pierre Lassand just quietly sitting there because he likes the project? Maybe you can't expand on that, but I think it's just interesting that he's come on as a shareholder. I don't know how much he's got, but the interest.
Yeah, no, Pierre and the people who would follow Pierre, I'd say, and are significant shareholders in Southern Cross. They came in on the last placement in December, and they're wonderful supporters around strategy. In fact, one of our key strategies, and it was before we got to know Pierre and those around him, is to follow the Lassen curve, and perhaps we can just discuss that in a moment. But having one of the not many people in Australia know of Pierre, but he's one of the two most famous people, I'd say, in the gold markets. He founded Franco-Nevada, ran Newmont. He's had multiple billion-dollar companies. He's made a hell of a lot of money for people who followed him. And why is he in our stock? He thinks that the Sunday Creek project is a wonderful project, and he wanted to be part of it.
Okay, well, let's talk going forward. I'm speaking to you now in June of 2023. And I said right at the start, are you going to be drilling for the next 10 years? Paint us the vision, if you like, of what you're going to be doing for the rest of 23. Where's, I guess what I'm looking for our audience is where's the shareholder value? I note that the share price has been under a little bit of pressure of late. But hey, ladies and gentlemen, everything has been under pressure. Not financial advice, just saying everything has been under pressure at the moment. But Mike, what's going on? What's the news flow going to look like? And what do you attribute that pressure on your share price lately?
Okay, so big questions. What's the strategy and what's the pressure? I think is two things. So I'll enunciate the strategy, which is pretty clear, and I just mentioned it. It's to follow the Lassen curve. So we want to make this bigger. We're not there to create a few 100,000 ounce system. We're there to create a multi-million ounce system, and we're well on that path.
Okay.
Without a doubt. So that means more drilling. You don't find anything without drilling. You don't find anything without drilling, without having the money, without having the permits and access. So we're fully permitted. We've got, like I mentioned, 17 million as of last quarter in the bank. And 4 rigs turning. So that means that we've got a great opportunity to make this bigger. How do we make this bigger? There's a hell of a lot of opportunity. We're drilling over 1.2 kilometres in one part of the system down to a kilometre, but then there's drill rigs going now up to 8 kilometres away, where the structure continues, the mineralised host continues. So there's palpable and multiple opportunities to make this bigger. Making it bigger in isolation doesn't. Some people's eyes will glaze over because you go, well, you've got to make it hang together. And when you're putting a resource out, and then I say, well, what size do you want the resource to be? And ultimately, our view, our strategy is that Lassen curve is to stay on the curve, that exploration part of the curve before you start to get into the bathtub. And at some point, we're going to have to put a resource on, but we're going to create value by indicating ounces in the ground and demonstrating they hang together, and people can make their own assumptions before we put that resource out. So we want to keep our drill budgets for expanding and then making it hang together. So, there's 4 rigs gives us a hell of a lot of opportunities. Like I said, we've got 1 rig 8 kilometres away. We've got a couple of rigs essentially now not infilling because there's large gaps between a kilometre and surface, but bringing together the confidence and the continuity, and ultimately those holes will add to the resource when it comes, which we say late next year. And then we've got another rig just basically going into areas that haven't been touched between old mines, right, on that main trend. So that's the strategy. Make it bigger, demonstrate it hangs together, and don't limit the vision. Nobody is in any of these juniors. Well, that's not true. There's some juniors who put together smaller resources and go into production early and bootstrap it from there. That's not our strategy. Our strategy is to create a high grade, and I'm talking top quartile high grade, multi-million ounce system.
Okay. So just a couple of things in that, because not everybody that listens to us are geologists or understand that they're a big investing audience out there. Just expand a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, on the Lassen curve and why you see that sort of that exploration section. Can you just explain that to us?
Yeah, so the true value in junior companies is making discoveries. That's where you go from the idea down here, and then time and value on the y-axis, and time on the x-axis. And the Lassen curve describes that discovery curve until you get into the early stage economic studies, PEAs they're called in Canada, scoping studies here, and then feasibility, pre-feasibilities. And then once that's engineered, actually engineers, I've got many good friends who are engineers, destroy value because they take an asset and make it more real. And by doing so, it shaves edges off hope and glory, which is exploration. So it actually makes a more real project, but it's a boring investment. So just engineering a project, and it's only until that project, and it takes years to go through that bathtub, comes out the other end and goes into production and starts hitting nameplate capacity, then it's valued as a value stock and a cash flow stock. So for junior companies, staying on that exploration curve is most important. Now, that only happens if you've got a system that continues to grow.
Exactly.
And we've got a big system here, and limiting the vision on this system too early is going to not create less value in our view. So if we just took our we got 15 kilometres left this year. We've drilled 15 kilometres, so lots of drilling to come. If we focus that 15,000 metres on drilling out a resource in the top 200 or 300 metres, we wouldn't be making new discoveries. We wouldn't be adding the potential ounces on the table. We'd be de-risking it and making it hang together. But staying on that Lassand curve is where the value. So as long as you create more and more value, if we can demonstrate this system is as big as we think it can get, that's where shareholders are really going to make their value. And I didn't answer that one question about the pressure before, so don't forget.
No, I haven't forgotten. No, don't you worry, I haven't forgotten about that, Michael. But actually, that was a really good way of sharing with those that don't fully understand that that's where the value comes. Mike, could the value also come from this resource potentially? And look, I don't want to put words in your mouth because it's early and you can't answer the numbers, but I'm just saying, if it got to a certain size, do you think that maybe one of the big boys, like we've just seen Newcrest being taken over by Newmont, we've seen other M&A activity in this sector. Do you think even in that early exploration stage that there might be someone that comes along and says, oh, this could be another Fosterville, because you're not that far away from Fosterville?
Yeah, well, that's our job to make sure that happens. Simply put, right? The job of a junior is to absolutely put a team together to demonstrate you can take it through, and you've got to be genuine about doing so. So what I mean, take it through, pass that Lassand curve, get through the engineering, and show you're going to build it. But our job is also to make the project as interesting as possible for those major companies to create that competitive tension. Yeah. And everyone knows the game, so that's no secret elixir. But we're never going to get a major in if we focus too small too early. Staying on that exploration curve and demonstrating the scale, and we all know. Well, here's the thing, right? The mid tiers, sort of the top 10 to the top 5 gold companies are all now looking at about 200,000 ounces a year production. So that's sort of the footprint they like. Then you need to have a 10-year project is the rule of thumb minimum. So there's 200,000 times 10, there's 2 million, but 2 million ounces. Remember, I said engineers destroy value because they will put stopes around only the most minor parts of an ore system. So you need close to 3 million ounces to get that 2 million reserve, basically. So there's the sort of, if you're looking for a vision where to go, then the bigger companies, the Newmonts of the world, like, I can't speak for any specific company because they have their own strategy, but they're looking for a much bigger system, much more production, upwards to up to 500,000 ounces a year. And then you need your 5 million ounce system and beyond to be of interest for the very, very biggest companies. And so they need to see that scale. It doesn't need 5 million ounce systems are not drilled out overnight, but they need to see that there. So all those things feed into that strategy, right? And making sure that we can demonstrate this is a system that is very large, and that we've got the team and the ability to take it forward. And then that's around the jurisdiction too, which perhaps we can talk a bit about too.
What do you mean by around jurisdiction?
Well, you've got to, in exploration again, you've got to be able to advance your project. So it's talking about getting on the ground and.
Oh, you mean yeah. Okay, so you're talking Victoria.
and I'm talking Victoria, and then can you ever actually mine it? Because Victoria has this reputation that I hear quite a bit that Victoria's tough, and it's a bit of an Australian mantra because remember the Canadians came in here and found Fosterville and still mining at Fosterville and Costerfield, two of the top 10 highest grade deposits on earth, and the Aussie market sort of left it, and so I think it's a bit of a mantra in Australia that Victoria is too hard, right? In many respects, and we've got to demonstrate that's not the case. I'm not here to try to promote Victoria as easy, but nowhere is easy either, right? Nowhere is easy, and we just had the Victorian government in a tough budget, right, where the state is in dire straits, but they actually announced in that budget a $23 or $24 million program to create a project facilitation group for mining to bring projects through the morass of different administrative bodies. So they're actually putting very positive signals out there to develop. There is a boom in Victoria in gold, in mineral sands. We've got the best gold discovery outside the mines. I think we can clearly say that now, and it's got the critical metal component, which is extremely important. The antimony side of things that we don't need to go into any detail, but that plays to that support as well. So you've got to be in a jurisdiction where people want to be, basically, too.
And it's not as bad as I guess what you're saying as well is it's not as bad as people think. Like working in Victoria, they're becoming much more amenable to.
Well, we're producing more gold than we have in 100 years. There's 3 gold mines, and the tenor of the projects is wonderful, right? We've got 2 of the top 10 highest grade gold mines on earth. Fosterville was number 1 until very recently, and it was the top 10 producer. So that the pedigree is there, and you just got to work hard with all stakeholders to demonstrate you've got a project. And I say, here's another my mantra: the mining industry is now ready for Victoria.
Oh, I like that. Look, Mike, we're running out of time, but I just want to ask you quickly, if you don't mind. The share price has been under a little bit of pressure of late. Seems like you put out great results like Hole 66, and the market's not really recognizing it. Have you got a view on that?
Yeah, like I see the Australian market's wonderful. I see who buys and sells our stock because that's what you can do as a company here in Australia. In Canada, where I've come from, that's opaque and very difficult, and it's just a wall of worry. It's not it's you're literally talking a handful of people who see one seller, and we had one seller who took us off the wall and pushed a button and sold over 1 million shares in a day, and then everybody assumes something's wrong, and then there's a group of people who get worried, and that's the sentiment, right? So it is a relatively small amount of people who are following their money, and everyone can do whatever they want in the investment space, but it's dislocated to where the project's at and what we're doing, and like I said, firm hand on the tiller, and we'll find more gold, and things will turn, and these things turn like that in the exploration business. We turn overnight. So it annoys me, but I'm not worried.
No, I like that, firm hand on the tiller. And look, as Mike said right at the start, he was a co-founder of Morrison. Southern Cross Gold is a spinout of Morrison. They are literally finding gold left, right, and centre. And you know me, I love gold. Now, here's another thing. If you want to see Mike in person, he will be presenting at the Australian Gold Conference on the 29th and 30th of August in Sydney. So people can come and see you in person and ask all the questions that they're probably screaming at me going, why didn't you ask this? Why didn't you ask that? But they can come and see you and the team at the conference in late August. Mike, let's finish it up with 3 reasons people should sit up and take notice of Southern Cross Gold right now.
Yeah, well, I get a bit boring because I give you the same answers, but it look and benchmark this project against global projects in terms of the amount of gold that we're hitting. And so number one, it is clearly the tenor of the project now that I think we've we've demonstrated.
Yep.
In terms of, in this market where everyone is feeling a little bit more pain, having cash is king.
That's true.
And then we're not frightened to spend that cash on drilling. So we're not pulling back. We're going forward with gusto, as long as it makes sense for the strategy, and staying on the Lassen curve is how we're going to create value for shareholders. I firmly believe that. So there's your three.
Thank you very much, Mike. I love the way you finished with "and staying on the Lassen curve," because Pierre Lassand's now come on as a shareholder as well. Nicely said, and great to see you again, Mike. We'll see you at the conference, but in the meantime, keep coming up with those wonderful results, and thanks for joining me on Small Caps.
Thanks, Gary.